Have you ever thought or been informed if spirituality is hereditary? Is you being spiritual the effect of your family being spiritual? Often, we are forced to believe the famous quote, "You will reap what you sow," is applicable to spiritual life also. We look at spiritual characters, personalities, and so-called celebrities who are around us, and we assume that we think to ourselves if their spirituality is inherited. Yes, there are spiritual characters and people even in our families whose lives are on the limelight. For us to look at their lives and learn lessons of how we can build relationships with God. But being born into a Christian family, does that make you become a genuine and committed man or woman of God? When it comes to spirituality, there is always a great tension between the older and the new generation. The new generation always argue that the changes in facilities, technologies, exposure, lifestyle, and geographical location, etc. changes the way or vary the way we connect ourselves with God. Well, I am here to point out to you a family of 3 generations from whose life we can learn a lot of things when it comes to spirituality. All 3 of them had almost similar background, lifestyle, vocation, exposure, and even lived in the same geographical location, but each of them were different in their way they connected to God or they built their relationships with God. All of them started well, but not all of them ended well. This is the family of King Abijah and his son King Asa and his grandson King Jehoshaphat, mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 13 to 21. Each of these kings ruled Judah, succeeding the other with a quite few similarities. All the 3 reigned from Jerusalem, had enough army men to fight their battles, had good reputation in the neighborhood, stood against the idols of foreign gods, and most of all was quick to seek God's help in times of a war. From the life of these 3 kings, I am here to point out 4 things that are deceiving and that can mislead others to believe that we are spiritual. Number 1, worship. Somehow we are caught up with the idea that our spiritual life and our spirituality can be determined by the way we see someone worship God or how they are devoted to God outside, what's exhibited outside. Let's look closer into the lives of these 3 kings. King Abijah. King Abijah, during his time, worshipped the Lord by offering sacrifices and burning incenses every morning and every night. He observed everything that the Lord had required of him, which we see in 2 Chronicles chapter 13 verse 11. He was a genuine spiritual king. King Asa. We see from 2 Chronicles chapter 15 that during the time of King Asa, there were no priests, there was no reading of the law. But people in the neighborhood, people who came against him, people around him, saw that the Lord was with him because every battle that he fought, God had given him victory. He once made a commitment with the Lord, and in his commitment, he said he will put to death everyone who does not seek the face of the Lord. He even brought to the temple of God gold, silver, and every precious articles. He also destroyed everything that belonged to foreign gods. Intensely spiritual king. The next and our favorite probably will be King Jehoshaphat, because we know from 2 Chronicles chapter 18 that King Jehoshaphat was someone who would not do anything without seeking the face of the Lord. Without seeking God's counsel, he never took a decision in his life. He sought the help from God multiple times. There was a time that he wanted reaffirmation from God about the battle that he had to face in his life. He even appointed judges and oriented them spiritually by saying that you are not working for mere mortals, but you are working or doing a job for the Lord. He also appointed priests to administer the law of the Lord and set up officials to teach people from the book of the law. Even there was an occasion when he was alarmed by a great and vast army that was coming against for battle. He declared a fasting throughout Judah and prayed. He also appointed singers and worship leaders who would be in the front line of the army to sing praises to God. An extremely spiritual king. Number 2, strength. King Abijah, we read and we see from the scriptures, had some able fighting men. King Asa had some men who are armed with large shields, spears and bows. King Jehoshaphat, on the other side, had some really experienced fighting men along with commanders, volunteered soldiers and a valiant soldier. Number 3, success. These three kings, when we see their lives, had less number of army men on their side when compared to those in the enemy side whom they faced. Yet the Lord gave them success. Number 4, funeral. Each of these kings rested with their ancestors, and all three of them were buried in the city of David, a very honorable privilege, being descendants of the great king David. 4 things that can mislead others to believe that we are spiritual: worship, strength, success, funeral. But let me quickly take you to the end times of these 3 kings. Let's start with the grandson, King Jehoshaphat. King Jehoshaphat reigned Judah for 25 years. But towards the end, he made an alliance with a king named Ahaziah, who was very wicked. He made an alliance with him such a way to build trade ships. But God was not pleased with him. That God came and destroyed all the ships, and their trade did not happen. This extremely spiritual king, so as to say, did not seek the face of the Lord or did not seek counsel from God at this point of life where he made his choice. The second king, King Asa. King Asa reigned Judah for 41 years, but at the end of his reign, he made a treaty with a king named Ben-Hadad of Damascus and bribed him to break his treaty that he had with another king, King Baasha, so that together they can fight against King Baasha. This intensely spiritual king did not seek the help from God, who helped him in every wars, every battles, and every ventures of his life, who would have helped him in this battle also. King Abijah. King Abijah, we see from the scriptures, reigned Judah only for 3 years. But we also see from the scriptures that all his life he did not forsake God. We also see that during his kingship, God was the leader. He relied on God throughout all the battles that he fought in his life. My dear friends, do we make alliances or sign treaties or take life decisions in our lives at the cost of sacrificing your moral and ethical values that you have once built and developed in the relationship that you had with God? Do you make life choices that are unspiritual? Spirituality is not inherited or attained, but spirituality is a choice. It's built and developed every moment, every day. Being spiritual is not being that person whom people would look at and applaud you for, but being spiritual is that person whom God would reward you within the closed, confined, personal space of yours. For a child of God, it doesn't matter, or it rarely matters how much you have lived in this life, but what really matters for a child of God is how well you have lived your life. Successful Christianity is not attaining the shining and attractive positions, status, or even popularity, but successful Christianity is living for the one who called you until the very last breath of your life, no matter what situation you go through. The closer you get to God, the more spiritual you become. The more spiritual you become, the more godly choices will you make. So, let the end of your life be better than its beginning. God bless you.